When we talk about agritourism, we are talking about an approach that goes far beyond traditional tourism activities. Agritourism represents a multi-layered form of engagement where agriculture, culture, and tourism intersect to create experiences that are deeply rooted in local realities. Instead of offering visitors a superficial view of rural life, agritourism invites them into the everyday world of farming landscapes, community traditions, and knowledge systems that have been passed down through generations. This integration is what makes agritourism unique. It blends the productive side of agriculture with the experiential dimension of tourism, generating interactions that are economic, cultural, social, and environmental all at once. One of the most distinctive aspects of agritourism is the model it promotes. It allows rural communities to diversify their income without abandoning their identity or compromising their values. Rather than reshaping rural spaces to fit the expectations of mass tourism, agritourism builds on what already exists: authentic practices, genuine landscapes, and lived traditions. This creates opportunities for both economic growth and cultural preservation, making rural areas more resilient while allowing visitors to form meaningful connections with local ways of life. Agritourism also redefines the role of the tourist. Visitors are not simply observers, they become active participants in the rhythms and tasks of rural environments. A simple activity, such as harvesting fruit, preparing traditional foods, learning about local ecological practices, or engaging with farmers, becomes a pathway to understanding how rural communities operate and why their knowledge matters. These interactions transform everyday agricultural work into memorable experiences, fostering appreciation, empathy, and awareness. Ultimately, agritourism is more than a recreational activity. It is a development strategy that strengthens rural economies, protects cultural heritage, and promotes environmental stewardship. It helps build bridges between urban and rural populations, creating spaces where people can learn from each other and rethink the value of rural life in contemporary society. As we explore this theme further, we will see how agritourism can serve as a catalyst for sustainable development and community empowerment across diverse rural regions. The Dak Lak Province in Vietnam offers a powerful example of how agritourism can evolve into a meaningful development strategy grounded in both agriculture and cultural heritage. This region, located in the Central Highlands, is widely known for its coffee production, one of Vietnam's most important agricultural exports. But in recent years, Dak Lak has transformed this agricultural strength into a foundation for immersive tourism experiences that go far beyond simple farm visits. What makes Dak Lak especially interesting is the way it integrates coffee cultivation with the cultural practices of the region's ethnic minority communities. Visitors are not only introduced to the technical aspects of coffee growing, they are invited into the broader cultural environment that shapes these agricultural traditions. This includes learning about indigenous farming techniques, understanding the spiritual significance of coffee cultivation, and participating in cultural exchange activities hosted by local families. These interactions give visitors a richer understanding of the social and cultural dimensions that define rural life in the region. In this sense, the coffee plantations become more than production sites. They become living classrooms. Tourists gain hands-on experience, such as harvesting coffee cherries, processing beans, or exploring the ecological knowledge that local farmers have developed over generations. At the same time, they engage with traditional music, crafts, rituals, and storytelling, which are central elements of the community's cultural identity. This blending of agricultural knowledge and cultural expression creates authentic tourism offerings that preserve local traditions while generating new economic opportunities. For the communities of Dak Lak, agritourism has helped diversify income sources, reduce economic vulnerability, and strengthen the transmission of cultural heritage to younger generations. Instead of relying solely on fluctuating agricultural markets, families can now benefit from tourism activities that reward both their expertise and their cultural contributions. This model demonstrates how agritourism, when approached with respect for local identity, can become a tool for sustainable development, cultural preservation, and community empowerment. When we think about what makes agritourism meaningful and different from other forms of tourism, one of the most important elements is authentic rural engagement. This concept goes beyond simply observing agricultural activities or visiting rural landscapes. Instead, it creates opportunities for visitors to take part in the daily rhythms of rural life, gaining firsthand experience of the knowledge, skills, and traditions that shape local communities. In this section, we will look at how participatory harvesting, indigenous knowledge transfer, and cultural exchange events contribute to deeper, more responsible, and more impactful agritourism experiences. The first dimension is participatory harvesting. Here, visitors do not just walk through fields or watch farmers at work, they actively participate in agricultural tasks. This can include picking crops, learning how to prepare fields, or assisting with seasonal activities that are central to farming livelihoods. By working alongside experienced local practitioners, travelers gain a better understanding of the effort, expertise, and environmental conditions that underpin agricultural production. This hands-on involvement creates a sense of connection that typical sightseeing cannot achieve. A second, equally important dimension is the transfer of indigenous knowledge. Many rural communities rely on cultivation techniques that have been refined over generations, often based on ecological wisdom and sustainable land management practices. Through agritourism, visitors are introduced to these knowledge systems, organic methods, soil conservation strategies, water management practices, and other forms of expertise that reflect long-term adaptation to local environments. This type of learning helps visitors appreciate the sophistication of rural knowledge and the key role it plays in preserving both biodiversity and agricultural resilience. Finally, cultural exchange events offer a space where visitors can experience the social and cultural side of rural life. Local families may host traditional craft workshops, storytelling sessions, or ceremonies that express the community's identity and values. These interactions help bridge cultural divides by encouraging mutual respect and understanding. Visitors gain insight into daily life, beliefs, and traditions, while communities have the opportunity to share and preserve their cultural heritage in ways that also contribute to local income. Together, these three forms of engagement, participatory harvesting, indigenous knowledge transfer, and cultural exchange, create a comprehensive and authentic agritourism experience. They support sustainable rural development by valuing local expertise, strengthening cultural identity, and building meaningful connections between visitors and communities. In the next part of our presentation, we will see how these forms of engagement shape long-term benefits for rural territories and the people who call them home. When we look at the role of culture within agritourism, it becomes clear that cultural integration is both an opportunity and a challenge. On one hand, bringing local traditions, crafts, and rituals into tourism, activities can help preserve practices that might otherwise be at risk of disappearing. On the other hand, if not managed carefully, these same traditions can become commercial products, stripped of their meaning and reshaped to meet tourist expectations rather than community values. This tension represents the double-edged sword of cultural integration. The first edge of this dynamic is preservation potential. By incorporating cultural heritage into tourism, communities have a tangible incentive to continue practicing and transmitting their traditions. Visitors who engage with local crafts, participate in rituals, or learn about agricultural customs often leave with a deeper appreciation for the cultural richness of rural areas. These interactions validate cultural practices and demonstrate their relevance in contemporary society. In many cases, tourism revenue helps sustain knowledge systems that are tied to identity, land management, and community cohesion. As a result, agritourism can function as a protective mechanism, ensuring that important traditions remain alive for future generations. But the other edge, the risk of commodification, is equally important to acknowledge. When cultural elements become part of the tourist experience, there is always the possibility that they will be simplified, altered, or even staged to suit visitor preferences. This can lead to performances that no longer reflect authentic community meaning, but instead cater to market demands. Over time, traditions may lose their depth and become disconnected from the cultural contexts that give them significance. Researchers frequently highlight this concern, noting that authenticity becomes vulnerable when tourism drives cultural change instead of supporting cultural continuity. Finding balance between these two forces is essential. Successful agritourism models work closely with local communities, ensuring that cultural expressions are shared on their own terms and not reduced to entertainment. When cultural integration is handled with respect and sensitivity, it can strengthen local pride and enhance visitor understanding. But when profit becomes the dominant motive, communities may feel pressure to reshape their identity in ways that compromise cultural integrity. When we consider the broader impact of agritourism, one of the most significant dimensions to explore is its economic contribution to rural livelihoods. Agritourism is not simply a cultural or environmental initiative. It is also a practical economic strategy that helps farming households strengthen their stability, diversify their income, and become more resilient in the face of uncertainty. This section looks at how agritourism supports diversification and resilience through additional income streams, seasonal stability, and deeper integration into the value chain. The first economic benefit lies in generating additional income streams. Traditional agriculture is often dependent on highly fluctuating markets and increasingly unpredictable weather patterns. By engaging in agritourism, farmers can supplement their primary income with revenue from guided tours, hands-on experiences, farm stays, or direct product sales. This diversification acts as a financial buffer, helping reduce vulnerability to external shocks. Instead of relying solely on crop yields or commodity prices, households gain alternative pathways for income that are often more stable and sometimes more profitable. A second equally important aspect is seasonal stability. Agriculture is deeply tied to seasonal cycles, which can create periods of low activity and reduced earnings. Agritourism helps fill these gaps by providing year-round economic opportunities. Activities such as workshops, tastings, craft demonstrations, or cultural events can be organized even during off-peak agricultural periods. This continuous flow of economic activity strengthens household financial resilience and reduces the income volatility that many rural families face. The third dimension relates to value chain integration. In many traditional agricultural systems, farmers depend on intermediaries to bring their products to market. Agritourism changes that dynamic by creating direct connections between producers and consumers. Visitors can purchase products straight from the farm, learn about how they are made, and build a deeper appreciation for the work involved. This not only allows farmers to capture a larger share of the product's value, but also enhances transparency and consumer education. When visitors understand the production process, they are often more willing to pay fair prices and support sustainable practices. Together, these three economic dimensions illustrate how agritourism can become a powerful tool for strengthening rural economies. It provides financial diversification, stabilizes income across seasons, and empowers farmers by placing them more centrally within the value chain. As we move forward, we will continue to see how these benefits contribute to building more resilient and sustainable rural communities. One of the often overlooked but highly significant impacts of agritourism is its ability to strengthen social cohesion within rural communities. Beyond the economic and cultural dimensions, agritourism also creates new forms of collective participation that bring people together around a shared purpose. When communities collaborate to host visitors, organize events, and maintain tourism-related activities, they develop stronger interpersonal bonds and a greater sense of shared responsibility. This social dynamic plays an essential role in shaping how rural communities adapt to new opportunities and challenges. Agritourism naturally encourages collaboration, preparing orchards or field for tours, organizing cultural demonstrations, coordinating homestays, or managing visitor experiences all require cooperation among community members. These shared tasks foster trust and reinforce relationships between neighbors. In many cases, individuals who may not interact frequently in daily life come together through tourism initiatives, creating new channels for communication and mutual support. This kind of interaction contributes to a more inclusive and cohesive community environment. Another important aspect is the way agritourism promotes shared decision-making. Communities often need to discuss how tourism will be organized, how responsibilities will be distributed, and how benefits will be shared. These conversations create platforms for dialogue that extend far beyond the tourism sector itself. They help establish mechanisms for collective problem solving and encourage a sense of agency among local residents. As community members participate in planning and implementing tourism activities, they gain experience that can later be applied to other development challenges, from natural resource management to local infrastructure projects, agritourism also reinforces community identity. When villagers work together to present their traditions, landscapes, and ways of life to visitors, they often rediscover the value of their own cultural and social heritage. This strengthens community pride and help preserve local identity in the face of broader social and economic change. The collective nature of tourism activities creates a shared narrative, one that celebrates the distinctiveness of the community and unites people around a common vision. Ultimately, the development of agritourism contributes to a stronger, more resilient social fabric. It enhances cooperation, deepens solidarity, and fosters a sense of belonging among residents. As we explore this dimension, we see that agritourism is not just an economic strategy or a cultural experience. It is a catalyst for building community cohesion and expanding local capacity for collective action. As we broaden our perspective on agritourism, it is important to recognize that this development model is not limited to a single region or cultural context. A compelling example comes from Nigeria, where the integration of tourism with agricultural activities has opened up new opportunities for rural development. This case helps us understand how agritourism can function across different geographies, demonstrating its adaptability and relevance in diverse landscapes and social settings. In Nigeria, rural communities have begun to leverage their agricultural heritage, natural beauty, and cultural diversity to attract both domestic and international visitors. What makes this case particularly insightful is the way tourism activities are designed to reinforce, rather than replace, local practices. Visitors are invited to explore traditional farming systems, experience local customs, and participate in community events that highlight regional identity. These interactions generate interest from travelers seeking environmentally conscious experiences, as well as educational insights into food production, ecological stewardship, and rural life. One of the key strengths of the Nigerian example is its ability to appeal to a wide spectrum of visitors. Some travelers are motivated by recreational curiosity. They want to enjoy scenic landscapes, observe wildlife, or explore rural villages. Others are drawn by the opportunity to learn about indigenous cultivation techniques, community-based conservation, or sustainable agricultural approaches. By accommodating these varying interests, agritourism in Nigeria helps diversify income sources for local families, while also strengthening environmental awareness among tourists. Another important dimension is market reach. Nigeria's agritourism initiatives tap into both national and international tourism networks, particularly audiences that are increasingly attentive to sustainability and authenticity. As eco-conscious travel grows globally, destinations that combine agriculture, culture, and nature gain a competitive advantage. This broadens livelihood opportunities in rural areas and helps communities participate in tourism markets that traditionally favored urban or coastal destinations. Ultimately, the Nigerian case demonstrates how agritourism can serve as a platform for rural empowerment, environmental protection, and cultural appreciation. All at once, it reinforces the idea that agritourism is not a one-size-fits-all solution, but a flexible development strategy that can be adapted to meet the unique strengths and needs of different regions. Through this broader geographic lens, we can better understand the global potential of agritourism as a tool for sustainable rural transformation. Culinary tourism has become one of the most engaging and rapidly expanding dimensions of agritourism, and the farm-to-table movement lies at the heart of this transformation. What makes this theme so compelling is the way it connects visitors directly to the food they eat, the people who produce it, and the landscapes where ingredients are grown. Unlike traditional dining experiences, farm-to-table tourism invites travelers to participate in the entire journey of food, from the field to the kitchen to the final shared meal. This creates not only a deeper appreciation for agriculture, but also a stronger sense of connection to the places and communities that shape local cuisine. A key aspect of this model is direct participation. Visitors often take part in harvesting vegetables, collecting herbs, or preparing meals using ingredients sourced just minutes earlier from nearby farms. These hands-on activities make food production tangible and personal. People who may never have experienced rural life gain a sense of the labor, skill, and knowledge embedded in agricultural work, transforming a simple meal into a learning experience rooted in authenticity. Another important dimension is the strengthening of local value chains. Farm-to-table initiatives shorten the distance between producers and consumers, which has a significant economic impact. By removing intermediaries, farmers retain a larger share of the value of their products, while visitors gain access to fresh, high-quality ingredients. These experiences support regional economies, encourage local sourcing, and promote more sustainable food systems. They also build trust and transparency. Travelers see exactly where their food comes from and how it is grown. Culinary tourism also plays a powerful role in reinforcing place-based identity. Food is one of the most expressive elements of cultural heritage, and every region has its own flavors, ingredients, and preparation techniques passed down through generations. When visitors participate in cooking traditional dishes or tasting local specialties, they gain a sensory introduction to the identity of the region. At the same time, communities take pride in sharing their culinary heritage, strengthening intergenerational ties and cultural continuity. Together, these elements show that culinary tourism is far more than a trend. It is an experiential bridge between agriculture, culture, and community. It offers economic advantages, educational value, and a meaningful way for visitors to engage with rural life. As we explore this topic further, we will see how the farm-to-table model contributes to sustainable rural development while celebrating the flavors and traditions that make each region unique. As we move deeper into the broader impacts of agritourism, it becomes important to recognize that its success does not depend solely on individual farms or isolated initiatives. Instead, many of the most effective agritourism models operate through networks, collaborations that link farmers, cooperatives, local businesses, public institutions, and tourism actors into a shared development system. This network-based perspective helps us understand agritourism not just as a single activity, but as an interconnected framework for strengthening entire rural territories. At the heart of this approach is the idea that rural communities can achieve more by coordinating their efforts than by working independently. For example, jointly planned strategies allow producers to align their activities, minimize environmental pressures, and ensure that tourism offerings complement rather than compete with one another. This coordination helps maximize benefits while protecting natural and cultural resources. Resource pooling is another fundamental advantage. When multiple actors collaborate, they can share infrastructure, invest collectively in facilities, and reduce the financial burden on individual families. This makes it easier to improve visitor services, upgrade production areas, or develop shared transportation and marketing systems. These joint investments support long-term resilience and reduce barriers for smaller producers who might otherwise struggle to participate in tourism. Network-based rural development also promotes more equitable distribution of economic gains. Instead of revenue concentrating in a few locations, coordinated networks help spread benefits across different community members, farmers, artisans, guides, and local retailers. This strengthens local economies and ensures that tourism contributes to inclusive development rather than deepening inequalities. Collaborative marketing plays a key role as well. When communities promote themselves collectively, they increase visibility, attract diverse visitor groups, and create a unified regional identity. This shared branding strengthens competitiveness and helps rural areas stand out in a crowded tourism marketplace. Finally, networks are powerful vehicles for knowledge sharing. As operators exchange best practices, from customer service to safety standards to sustainable land management, the overall quality of agritourism offerings improves across the region. This collective learning raises standards, builds capacity, and fosters continuous innovation. In essence, network-based rural development transforms agritourism into a cooperative model for territorial advancement. It strengthens social ties, reduces financial risks, improves environmental management, and expands economic opportunities. By working together rather than in isolation, rural communities can build more resilient, sustainable, and competitive agritourism destinations. When we talk about the long-term success of agritourism, one of the most essential elements to consider is visitor satisfaction. More than attractive landscapes or well-designed activities, it is the overall experience of the visitor that ultimately determines whether an agritourism initiative can be sustained over time. In this sense, visitor satisfaction becomes the true foundation of sustainability. It influences how often people return, how positively they speak about the destination, and how deeply they connect with the rural communities they engage with. A key part of this satisfaction comes from authenticity. Visitors want to feel that what they are experiencing is real. Genuine farm operations, real cultural exchanges, and honest explanations of agricultural practices. Hosts who are open and enthusiastic in sharing their work create stronger emotional connections, helping visitors understand both the challenges and the value of rural life. This transparency often becomes one of the most memorable aspects of the visit. At the same time, high-quality public facilities and clear visitor guidance are essential. Even the most beautiful farm can lose its appeal if guests feel confused, uncomfortable, or unsafe. Well-maintained paths, organized activity schedules, and accessible information help ensure that visitors feel welcomed and respected. Environmental quality also plays a crucial role. People want clean, healthy spaces where they can explore, learn, and enjoy a variety of experiences that reflect the local landscape. The long-term impact of these factors is significant. Repeat visits and positive word-of-mouth recommendations depend heavily on perceived quality. Agritourism destinations with strong reputations often grow organically as satisfied visitors share their experiences with friends, family, and online communities. Conversely, destinations that neglect these details may struggle to maintain engagement, even if they have natural beauty or cultural appeal. When activities feel staged or infrastructure is insufficient, visitor confidence declines quickly. This is why so much of agritourism sustainability depends on creating experiences that feel authentic, meaningful, and comfortable. Satisfied visitors become ambassadors for the region, helping to build a stable base of support that can sustain rural economies over time. As we explore this theme, we will see how attention to visitor experience is not just a marketing concern, it is a strategic investment in the long-term resilience of agritourism initiatives. As agritourism continues to evolve into a structured development strategy, one of the most critical areas that determines its long-term success is management capacity. Even the most appealing rural landscapes or the most engaging cultural experiences cannot reach their full potential without strong, coordinated management behind them. Management capacity refers to the systems, skills, and organizational structures that ensure agritourism sites operate smoothly, safely, and consistently, elements that are essential for earning visitor trust and sustaining economic benefits over time. At its core, effective management involves clear visitor guidance, proper safety protocols, well-maintained facilities, and a level of administrative oversight that keeps operations running efficiently. Whether it's scheduling daily activities, managing crowds, or ensuring that infrastructure is accessible and reliable, strong management helps transform a rural experience into a professional, enjoyable, and memorable visit. When these elements function well, they generate confidence among visitors. When they fail, even attractive destinations can lose credibility remarkably quickly. Another important component is coordination among different actors. Agritourism frequently involves collaborations between farmers, cooperatives, tourism boards, and local authorities. Without effective communication and shared planning, the quality of the visitor experience can become inconsistent. Governance approaches that include training programs, quality standards, and regular evaluation help maintain uniform expectations across multiple sites. This not only enhances the professionalization of agritourism, but also creates a stronger, more recognizable regional identity. Investment in training is particularly vital. Many rural operators have deep agricultural knowledge but may lack experience in hospitality, safety management, or marketing. Providing opportunities to build these skills equips communities to meet visitor expectations more confidently and deliver services that are both welcoming and safe. These investments are not costs. They are foundations that support the sustainability and reputational strength of agritourism initiatives. Ultimately, management capacity is what allows rural tourism to grow from isolated activities into a reliable and competitive sector. When operational systems are strong, communities can host more visitors, diversify their offerings, and achieve higher levels of quality and professionalism. But when management is weak or fragmented, the resulting inconsistencies can undermine visitor trust and jeopardize long-term sustainability goals. Recognizing management capacity as a strategic investment area is therefore essential for building resilient, successful agritourism destinations. As promising as agritourism may be, it is important to acknowledge that its development is not without challenges. Many rural communities face structural obstacles that slow progress, limit competitiveness, or prevent agritourism initiatives from reaching their full potential. Understanding these barriers helps us identify the support mechanisms and policy interventions needed to create stronger, more resilient agritourism ecosystems. In this section, we will explore four key obstacles: insufficient capital, skill gaps, language barriers, and seasonal fluctuations. The first challenge is insufficient capital. Developing agritourism requires investments in infrastructure, visitor facilities, safety measures, marketing, and staff training. Yet many rural regions struggle to secure the necessary financial resources. Limited funding can stall improvements to physical spaces, restrict outreach efforts, and hinder capacity building programs. Without adequate investment, even the most innovative ideas can struggle to attract visitors or compete with better resource destinations. A second important obstacle is the prevalence of skill gaps. While rural families may possess deep agricultural knowledge, agritourism also demands skills in hospitality, digital platform management, customer service, marketing, and multilingual communication. When these skills are lacking, it becomes difficult to deliver high-quality visitor experiences or to promote rural destinations effectively. Training and education are therefore crucial to ensure that agritourism operators can meet the expectations of increasingly diverse and sophisticated tourists. Language barriers also pose challenges, particularly for communities aiming to attract international visitors. Communication difficulty can create misunderstandings, reduce service quality, and limit the ability to engage with global markets. Even within domestic contexts, linguistic diversity may complicate interactions with visitors from different regions. Overcoming these barriers requires targeted language training programs, multilingual signage, and digital tools that support cultural and linguistic inclusivity. Finally, seasonal fluctuations represent an inherent structural challenge. Agritourism is closely tied to agricultural cycles, harvesting periods, planting seasons, weather patterns, which means that tourist flows can vary widely throughout the year. This unpredictability makes financial planning, staffing, and resource management more difficult. Communities must find creative ways to diversify their offerings, extend their tourism season, or develop complementary activities that help stabilize income. By recognizing these structural obstacles, we can better understand why agritourism development requires coordinated support, investment, training, governance, and innovation. Addressing these challenges is essential for ensuring that rural communities can fully benefit from the economic, cultural, and social opportunities agritourism provides. When rural communities face the structural challenges that limit agritourism development, whether financial, linguistic, operational, or seasonal, they often respond with remarkable creativity. These challenges, rather than acting as barriers alone, become catalysts for innovation. Around the world, communities have shown that with strategic thinking and collective effort, it is possible not only to overcome obstacles, but to transform them into new opportunities for growth. In this section, we will explore four ways communities are responding: off-peak programming, digital platform adoption, product diversification, and cooperative structures. One of the most effective strategies is off-peak programming. Instead of relying solely on agricultural seasons to drive tourism, Rural communities develop activities during quieter farming months. These events may include cultural festivals, craft exhibitions, culinary workshops, or local heritage celebrations. By creating reasons for visitors to come year-round, communities can smooth out revenue fluctuations and maintain economic activity during times that would normally be slow. This approach strengthens resilience and encourages broader engagement with the cultural richness of rural areas. Another increasingly important strategy is the adoption of digital platforms. Modern agritourism is not just about the farm, it is also about visibility. Communities and operators are learning to leverage social media, booking platforms, and virtual tours to reach wider audiences. By reducing dependence on traditional marketing channels and embracing online engagement, they can appeal to both domestic and international markets. Digital presence also helps small operators compete more effectively, offering tools that amplify reach without major financial investment. Product diversification is also a powerful response. Instead of limiting their offerings to traditional farm activities, many agritourism sites now incorporate workshops, accommodation options, nature-based activities, or value-added products such as artisanal foods and crafts. This diversification appeals to a broader set of visitor interests, from educational tourism to wellness tourism, and enhances the overall visitor experience. It also allows each site to develop a distinctive identity that reflects its unique cultural and ecological assets. Finally, cooperative structures play a crucial role in strengthening agritourism networks. By forming alliances, farmers and rural stakeholders can share resources, coordinate schedules, and present unified destination identities. This cooperation enhances marketing efforts, distributes benefits more equitably, and creates stronger regional brands. When communities collaborate instead of competing, they increase their collective capacity to innovate and respond to challenges. Taken together, these responses demonstrate that rural communities are not passive recipients of external pressures. They are active agents in shaping the future of agritourism. Through creativity, collaboration, and strategic adaptation, they continue to build sustainable pathways that support local livelihoods and preserve cultural landscapes. As agritourism continues to expand worldwide, its role in promoting environmental stewardship has become increasingly significant. Unlike many forms of tourism that constrain local ecosystems, agritourism has the potential to reinforce environmental conservation when thoughtfully designed and responsibly managed. This is because agricultural landscapes are inherently tied to ecological processes. Soil health, biodiversity, water management, and land stewardship are already central to farming. When visitors engage with these landscapes through agritourism, they gain insight into how sustainable practices support both agricultural productivity and environmental resilience. One of the strengths of agritourism is its ability to integrate conservation and land use in a natural and meaningful way. Activities such as guided field walks, demonstrations of organic cultivation techniques, or explanations of traditional ecological knowledge expose visitors to practices that sustain long-term landscape health. In many regions, these practices are rooted in indigenous farming methods that prioritize ecological balance. By observing or participating in these approaches, visitors become more aware of the role humans play in maintaining healthy ecosystems and are often inspired to adopt similar values in their own lives. This connection between human activity and ecological well-being creates a powerful educational platform. Visitors learn not just how food is grown, but how regenerative techniques, such as composting, agroforestry, cover cropping, or integrated pest management, enhance soil fertility, conserve water, and protect biodiversity. These experiences broaden the visitor's understanding of sustainability, transforming abstract environmental concepts into concrete, hands-on interactions. As a result, agritourism becomes a vehicle for environmental literacy, helping individuals appreciate the delicate balance that supports agricultural productivity. Importantly, the environmental dimension also strengthens agritourism as a long-term development pathway. Destinations that promote sustainability are more attractive to visitors who value responsible tourism. At the same time, farmers who adopt regenerative practices often experience improved yields, reduced input costs, and greater resilience to climate variability. This synergy means that environmental stewardship is not just an ethical choice, it is also a practical strategy that supports both ecological and economic sustainability. In sum, agritourism offers a unique opportunity to align human activity with nature in a way that benefits both visitors and local communities. By showcasing sustainable agricultural practices and demonstrating the importance of healthy landscapes, agritourism can play a vital role in shaping a more environmentally conscious society. As we move forward, it becomes clear that environmental stewardship is not an optional component of agritourism. It is one of its most valuable contributions to rural development. As we begin to assess what makes agritourism truly successful, it is important to shift from conceptual discussions to measurable outcomes. Agritourism is often praised for its potential to strengthen rural economies, preserve cultural heritage, and promote environmental stewardship. But these benefits must ultimately be demonstrated through concrete indicators. In this section, we look at several key metrics that help us understand whether an agritourism initiative is not only functioning but thriving over the long term. One of the most telling indicators is the income multiplier effect. Effective agritourism sites often generate 3 times the income of traditional farming alone. This increase is not simply a result of hosting visitors. It stems from diversification, offering workshops, tastings, accommodations, handmade products, or seasonal events. When these activities are thoughtfully designed and well managed, they significantly expand the financial stability of rural households. This income growth demonstrates that agritourism can be a reliable pillar of local economies rather than just a supplementary activity. Another essential indicator is repeat visitation. High-quality agritourism initiatives typically see around 65% of their visitors return or recommend the experience to others. This level of loyalty reflects the power of authenticity and meaningful engagement. It also confirms that agritourism succeeds when visitors feel welcomed, educated, and genuinely connected to the place and the people. Repeat visitation is crucial because it creates a stable customer base and reduces reliance on constant new outreach. Community participation is another important measure of success. In many successful cases, at least 40% of households engage in tourism-related activities. This involvement suggests that the benefits of agritourism are widely shared rather than concentrated in a few hands. When a large proportion of the community contributes, whether through hosting visitors, producing goods, guiding tours, or organizing cultural events, agribusiness becomes a collective development strategy that strengthens social cohesion and shared prosperity. Finally, activity variety is a strong predictor of resilience. Sites that offer more than 25 distinct experiences throughout the year, ranging from seasonal harvests to craft workshops, ecological tours, farm-to-table meals, or cultural events, are better able to maintain visitor interest across changing seasons. This diversity mitigates the effects of agricultural cycles and keeps the destination vibrant and attractive year-round. Together, these indicators, income growth, repeat visitation, community engagement, and activity diversity, provide a clear picture of what effective agritourism looks like in practice. They help communities evaluate performance, guide strategic planning, and ensure that agritourism truly contributes to sustainable rural development. One of the most delicate and important challenges in agritourism is finding the right balance between authenticity and adaptability. On one hand, the true value of agritourism comes from the authenticity of rural life, its cultural traditions, agricultural practices, community rituals, and lived landscapes. These elements represent the identity of a place, and they are the reason many visitors seek out rural destinations in the first place. On the other hand, agritourism must also respond to practical needs, visitor expectations, safety requirements, scheduling constraints, and accessibility. The challenge lies in adapting to these demands without diluting the cultural and agricultural integrity that makes each destination unique. Authenticity begins with preserving core identity. Communities must carefully curate which traditions and practices they share publicly and which they keep private or reserved for internal cultural significance. Not every ritual or activity is meant for tourism, and presenting everything for external consumption can risk turning meaningful customs into mere performances. Agritourism sites that succeed in maintaining authenticity do so by highlighting practices that naturally align with visitor engagement while ensuring that the heart of their cultural identity remains intact. This thoughtful approach protects communities from becoming generic tourist attractions and keeps their distinctive character visible and respected. At the same time, successful agritourism initiatives understand the need for strategic adaptation. This does not mean altering traditions. It means adapting the way they are presented so visitors can engage with them more easily. For example, scheduling tours around crop cycles, adjusting the timing of seasonal festivals, or improving amenities such as signage on rest areas or transportation access. These adaptations make experiences more accessible without compromising their essence. Flexibility also allows communities to manage environmental concerns, avoid overcrowding, and ensure that the pace of tourism aligns with agricultural cycles and community well-being. Striking the right balance requires intentional decision-making. Too much adaptation risks eroding cultural meaning. Too much emphasis on authenticity without flexibility may limit visitor access or reduce the economic viability of agritourism activities. When communities find this balance, they create experiences that are both meaningful and sustainable. Experiences that respect local identity while embracing thoughtful innovation. Ultimately, the balance between authenticity and adaptability is what enables agritourism to thrive. It ensures that visitors encounter something real and emotionally resonant while communities maintain control over how their heritage, landscapes, and livelihoods are represented. This balance strengthens cultural integrity, supports economic resilience, and reinforces agritourism's role as a powerful pathway for sustainable rural development. As we consider the broader potential of agritourism, an important question arises. Can successful models developed in one rural area be replicated in another? The answer is yes, but only when replication is approached thoughtfully with careful attention to local realities. Agritourism is not a one-size-fits-all formula. Every rural region has its own agricultural systems, cultural traditions, environmental conditions, and community dynamics. Replicability, therefore, depends on balancing consistency in core principles with flexibility in implementation. This section explores how agritourism models can be adapted across diverse rural contexts through a structured, step-by-step approach. The first step is assessment. Before any agritourism initiative is launched, communities must evaluate their local resources, everything from agricultural assets and cultural strengths to ecological conditions in existing infrastructure. This diagnostic phase helps identify the most authentic and feasible opportunities for tourism development. It ensures that agritourism aligns with local identity rather than imposing external templates that may not reflect community values. Capacity building follows as the second step. Successful agritourism requires investment not only in physical spaces, but also in human skills and organizational structures. Training programs, infrastructure development, and strengthened governance systems equip communities to manage tourism professionally and sustainably. This stage lays the foundation for consistent service quality and operational resilience. The third step involves pilot programs. Small-scale trials allow communities to test new ideas, gather visitor feedback, and identify areas for improvement before committing to long-term investments. Pilot programs encourage experimentation and help refine experiences in a low-risk environment. They also generate early momentum and build local confidence as communities see tangible results. Once a model has been tested and refined, the fourth step is scaling, expanding an agritourism initiative. Whether by adding activities involving more households or extending to neighboring areas, must be done carefully to maintain authenticity and quality standards. Successful scaling ensures that growth does not dilute the experience or place undue pressure on cultural and environmental resources. The final step is network integration. Replicable models gain strength when they become part of broader regional systems. By connecting multiple sites through shared marketing, knowledge exchange, and collaborative planning, communities create stronger and more competitive agritourism destinations. Networks also encourage continuous learning and help ensure that quality remains consistent across different locations. Together, these steps, assessment, capacity building, pilot programs, scaling, and network integration, illustrate how agritourism can be adapted and replicated across diverse rural regions. When communities follow this structured approach, they create locally tailored initiatives grounded in authenticity while contributing to a larger, interconnected framework for sustainable rural development. When we think about agritourism, it is easy to focus primarily on the economic benefits, how it diversifies household income, stabilizes seasonal earnings, and strengthens local markets. But agritourism, when thoughtfully implemented, is far more than an economic strategy. It has the capacity to transform rural territories in ways that reach deeply into social, cultural, and environmental dimensions. In this section, we explore agritourism not as a simple revenue-generating activity, but as a genuine pathway for transformative development. What makes agritourism transformative is its ability to reshape the relationship between locals and visitors. Rather than isolating tourists in designated entertainment zones or highly curated experiences, agritourism brings them into everyday rhythms of rural life, into farming practices, community interactions, and cultural traditions. These encounters create dynamic interfaces where outsiders can learn, participate, and appreciate without requiring communities to convert their identities into staged tourist spectacles. This shift moves agritourism beyond traditional tourism models and toward more meaningful exchanges rooted in mutual respect. At the same time, agritourism becomes a platform for multiple forms of empowerment. It enables cultural exchange by giving communities the opportunity to share their traditions in authentic ways. It promotes environmental education by exposing visitors to sustainable agricultural practices, ecological stewardship, and local land management knowledge. And it strengthens community cohesion as residents collaborate to host visitors, coordinate activities, and share responsibilities. These processes encourage collective decision-making and reinforce social ties that are essential for long-term resilience. Importantly, agritourism also challenges historical development patterns that have often marginalized rural populations. In contrast to extractive models that remove resources from rural areas without reinvesting in them, agritourism keeps value within communities. It validates traditional knowledge systems, supports cultural continuity, and offers sustainable alternatives to development approaches that prioritize short-term gains over long-term well-being. This creates new opportunities for rural areas to define their own development trajectories on their own terms. In essence, agritourism becomes transformative when it simultaneously uplifts economic prospects, enriches cultural life, strengthens environmental awareness, and empowers communities socially. As we move forward, we will see how these broader impacts position agritourism not just as a complementary activity, but as a strategic tool capable of reshaping rural futures in a holistic and inclusive way. As we look toward the future of rural agritourism, it becomes clear that its evolution will depend on how effectively communities can expand, protect, and connect their initiatives. Agritourism has already demonstrated its potential to strengthen rural economies, preserve cultural heritage, and promote environmental stewardship. The next step is to understand how these benefits can be scaled responsibly, safeguarded culturally, and integrated into broader networks, both regional and global. In this final section, we explore three key pathways that will shape the future of agritourism: scalable impact, cultural safeguards, and global integration. The first pathway involves scalable impact. Over the coming years, the most successful agritourism models will be those capable of expanding their influence across multiple sites and regions without losing sight of what makes them unique. This requires strong networks, effective capacity building, and governance systems that support quality while respecting local distinctiveness. Scaling is not about replicating identical experiences everywhere, but about spreading opportunities. ensuring that rural communities from different backgrounds can adapt agritourism to their own needs while maintaining environmental integrity and cultural richness. The second pathway focuses on cultural safeguards. As agritourism grows, so does the risk of cultural dilution, especially when economic pressures encourage communities to reshape traditions for tourist consumption. Developing protective frameworks becomes essential. These frameworks ensure that local communities maintain ownership over their cultural narratives, deciding what to share, how to share it, and what should remain within the community. By balancing economic inclusion with cultural preservation, these safeguards help prevent agritourism from becoming superficial or exploitative. Instead, they reinforce authenticity as a core value and empower communities to lead their own development processes. The third pathway is global integration. Rural destinations increasingly operate within a global tourism landscape where visibility, connectivity, and sustainability standards matter. Linking agri-tourism sites to international sustainable tourism networks expands their reach and attracts visitors who value responsible travel. At the same time, maintaining grassroots decision-making ensures that external partnerships do not overshadow local priorities. This combination of global visibility and local autonomy strengthens the resilience and long-term relevance of agritourism initiatives. Ultimately, the promise of agritourism lies not in replacing traditional agriculture, but in complementing it. Future pathways will rely on the ability of rural communities to celebrate their heritage, protect their landscapes, and innovate in ways that enhance both local well-being and global understanding. When guided by scalable strategies, cultural safeguards, and meaningful integration into global networks, agritourism becomes a powerful tool for community-led, sustainable development across diverse geographic and cultural contexts.